Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm 25 years old, and as of writing this, I already bought my plane ticket to go as far away from here as possible. But let me go back and start telling my story from the beginning. A few days ago, I found a real estate deal so amazing that I couldn't believe my eyes. A nice two-story house, fairly big with the price of an apartment. Of course, being the naive fool I am, I jumped into it head first. After graduating college, I landed a nice job as an IT expert in a prestigious company and had me some savings. So my plan was to build a stable life, and this opportunity would essentially give me a head start. Basically couldn't get better than this, or so I thought. The only downside was that the town my new house was in was considerably far from the one I currently lived in. This, of course, meant a ride in the old flying bus as I packed a huge suitcase that barely fits in its luggage compartments. Did I mention that I'm pretty prone to uncalculated risk-taking behavior? Yeah, I canceled the lease on my studio apartment before flying to my would-be new home. Pretty smart, huh? The plane landed. I grabbed my thing, paid a crapload for an overpriced, crappy cup of coffee at the airport, and took a bus, followed by a cab. I had a phone call with a car shipping company and figured that they'd bring my car to my new house by the time I'd be done furnishing it. Oh boy, out of all the crappy decisions I made, I regret this one the most. What I wouldn't give to have my car parked in front of my house now. I arrived at the real estate dealership. The guy who greeted me was a fairly ordinary looking man in his 40s in a suit. He told me his name was Marcius Capallo. He was about 5'10", had thinned out gray hair, a calm and friendly demeanor which certainly helped to prevent me from having any suspicions about this whole thing. And he told me the reason why this house was so cheap was because its former owner had inherited a much bigger house from his great-grandfather or some crap like that and was now hastily trying to get this property sold to pay his debts. Plausible, right? While Capallo was driving us to my new home, we had to make a stop at what looked like a police checkpoint. The man inside the little cabin came out and greeted us. He already knew Mr. Capallo, and after a casual greeting with him, came over to my window to introduce himself as the neighborhood's Homeowners Association's private security guard. I sighed and rolled my eyes. Ugh, it's one of these neighborhoods. Capallo said that he'd taken me to see the HOA president first to get introduced and such. We drove to his house and rang the doorbell. An old, scraggly-looking man opened the door and introduced himself as Francesco Spallanzani, the president of the HOA. He looked to be very old, slow, weak, and fragile-looking for a man. He leaned on his little stick to even walk. His wife, Betty, however, was in complete contrast to him in the sense that she, despite her age, was pretty lively. After a cup of coffee in their house, Francesco, Capallo, and I drove to my new house. At its empty state, it was a pretty eerie sight. The front porch looked like a graveyard, and the old wooden chairs creaked as we stepped on them. The house was definitely older than it looked in the pictures. The thin whistling sound of the blowing wind did not help the atmosphere. As we arrived, all the neighbors in the nearby homes came out to greet us. It looked like everyone knew each other except me, and that included Capallo too. One thing I noticed, however, was that all the neighbors seemed to be couples without any children. There wasn't a single big family in sight. I do remember jokingly asking Francesco about where all the children in the neighborhood went, but he brushed it off. After the crappy introductions were over, I stupidly signed the contract and they left me alone. I started unpacking whatever I had in my luggage and waited for shipping trucks to bring my furniture. As the trucks came and I moved my stuff in, all the neighbors were strangely very helpful. They helped me to carry and unpack my stuff and also brought me many gifts. Well, at least there's that, I naively thought to myself. The next morning when I got out to take care of my garden, I found a box placed in front of the door. The card attached had the following written: "A welcoming gift from your new neighbors." The cardboard box had 4 smaller white cardboard boxes in it, and inside those were pieces of chocolate. After seeing that, I was very grateful to have such nice neighbors. I thought I was so lucky. Though my gratefulness may have also stemmed from the fact that I was pretty hungry from going straight to bed after a long day of hard work, moving stuff around and such. So I basically gobbled up all the chocolates from one of the 4 boxes. Strangely, felt very full after that and didn't feel the need to eat a full course breakfast. The rest of the day went on with further furnishings and taking care of my new property, and I was pretty chill until I got a phone call from the car shipping company stating that my car had a malfunction with its engine and that they needed a few weeks to fix it. Otherwise, it simply wouldn't take off. The good news after that alleviated my mood, though. My sister and her son were coming to visit me in my new home. It's been a while since I last saw them, so that definitely was a mood lifter. After they came to visit me, my sister started helping with my decorations and my nephew was playing in the backyard. Everything was relatively normal up until this point. But from here on, crap hit the fan. Because just in an hour, my nephew Stephen went missing. I knocked on the doors of all the neighbors to ask them all, but all of them said they had no idea. I called Francesco, but his response was the same as everybody else. I called the cops and filed a missing persons case too, of course, and in the blink of an eye, the joy of my acquisition of a new home turned into tragedy as I made no less than 100 phone calls and basically looked everywhere around the neighborhood while trying to comfort my sister at the same time, who cried her eyes out. The search hopelessly ended that day with no leads whatsoever. The next day, I found another box on my front porch. This time, the card had the following written: "A gift of condolences from all your neighbors." Inside the box were just 2 little boxes this time. I opened up one of them and it had chocolate in it. Out of stress, I quickly took a huge bite without much thinking. This one also had that strange flavor and smell that I noticed with the first one. When I bit deeper, though, my teeth struck on something hard. It was my nephew Stephen's silver necklace. I quickly opened the other box and inside was just a note. "Sorry for the small amount. This one was pretty small and scrawny. He only amounted to 1 box of chocolate. By the way, do you still wonder where all the children in the neighborhood went?"